Éireann ó Ríordáin.
Gramagat Carhilach. Our grandparents' generation used to say that education was no burden, particularly our grandmothers. Maybe about 80 or 90 years ago, when a family member would come to the kitchen table, maybe at age 12, 13 or 14, and they had an offer of a job in the factory or on the docks, or a chance to leave school and go into employment, it would probably be the mother of that family, our grandmothers, who'd say education is no burden. And education is not just no burden, but education is actually the great liberator. It's the great liberator for families out of poverty, of young people out of disadvantage. It gives them the life chance that they need to maximise their potential. The tragedy about education is that so many people fall through its cracks. In Ireland, 1/3 of our primary school children who attend disadvantaged schools leave with basic reading problems. 17.9% of our adult population are functionally illiterate. If you take 2 3-year-olds, one from a disadvantaged family and one from an advantaged family, or a regular family if you might use that terminology, the disadvantaged 3-year-old has 1/3 the oral language capacity of the advantaged 3-year-old. 400 words versus 1,200 words before they come anywhere near a school gate. And in fact, in America, where they've privatized the prison system, the way that they predict the spare capacity that they'll need in 15 years' time, how many prison cells they're going to need, they look at the literacy rates of 10-year-olds in that district. So education is absolutely the great liberator. The most powerful thing in the world, actually, that changes not just a village, not just a family, but can change an entire country, is a girl with a book. And this is why it's so infuriating, so dispiriting, so upsetting to see education and those who work in education and those who believe in education so disrespected in the last number of months. We have special needs assistants who had to endure a bungled redeployment program. We had teachers and principals and parents listening to minister after minister giving different advice, different sound bites as to what the potential was for reopening schools. We had the spectre of blended learning hanging over us over the entirety of the summer. And then we had the Leaving Cert. And then we had student representatives hearing about the Leaving Cert delay in the results in the media. Now, what I would say on education is, and on the package that the Minister has produced, that it is welcome. And it is the responsibility of all of us to speak positively about the potential for this package to open schools. Because if we don't open schools next month, if we don't open schools in September, we are going to lose an entire generation. We're going to lose potentially an entire generation of vulnerable young people who, as I keep saying, have no legal requirement to be in school if they're over 16 years of age. And schools and teachers, much maligned schools and teachers by people writing columns in newspapers who haven't a cat's clue what it's like to work in a school, or with a vulnerable young person, or how teachers are holding schools together by their fingernails, sometimes holding families together by their fingernails, and often ensuring that young people don't make the wrong choice at the wrong time. And they've been holding on to a whole generation of 16 and 17-year-olds while they've been out of the school buildings, if you like, and hoping and praying and encouraging them to come back in September. And if we lose that generation, we will most likely lose them for good, forever. And that's a burden. That's a burden on them, and it's a burden on all of us. So this package, Minister, it has to work, and we want it to work. But there's elements in it that we have grave problems with that we hope over the next number of weeks that you can address. Now, it is absolutely not your fault. Absolutely not your fault, and I wouldn't even necessarily blame your party, Fianna Fáil, for the lateness of this package, because you're only in office a few weeks. But myself and Donegal O'Leary and other representatives from other political parties, Gary Gannon, deputies at the COVID Education Committee, were calling for months for a package. For months. We asked for it in April, we asked for it in May, we asked for it in June, and we asked for it again this month. And it has arrived, and it is substantial. Now, as principals have said to me, it should possibly have come with a magic wand, because you would need to magic up some teachers that don't exist, and to find school buildings that also mightn't exist. But it is our collective responsibility as politicians to show a little bit of leadership, to provide some certainty, and to suggest to the Irish people that this can work and we can open schools. But it's not just about opening schools, Minister, it's ensuring that they stay open. Now, I spoke about disrespect earlier, about SNAs being disrespected, about teachers being disrespected, about parents being disrespected, about education being disrespected. Within your package, it is suggested that special educational needs teachers will be used as substitutes. Now, that is not just disrespectful for the profession that they lead, the work that they do, keeping, again, for the most part, vulnerable students in touch and connected with education. But it's also disrespectful for those young people who need that individual attention and that special educational expertise that those teachers provide. So suggesting in your package that they can just be shifted over to a substitute position is unfair, disrespectful, and can't work. Can I also say to you about the transport situation, because I understand that parents have to apply for school transport for their children by this Friday. 120,000 children, young people, 14,200 of which have special educational needs, utilise this service. And yet, the school transport operators, I understand, are in no position to make a firm commitment this week or by this Friday if they can do the job. So another practical suggestion from me to you is that the least we can do is to delay the date by which parents have to apply for that transport scheme. But in conclusion, Minister, I'll say this much. I refer to the phrase of it's no burden and education being the great liberator, because it is. But education is the life chance. It's a life chance for young people to be everything they could possibly be. And we can't, as a collective, as an Oireachtas, get this wrong. And when you hold your citizens' assembly on education, which we support and wants to be constructive within. When you hold your citizens' assembly on education, we have to deal with the disrespect that's been shown to education down through the generations, the fact that it's not funded enough, the fact that our class sizes are one of the highest in Europe, the fact that our literacy rates are a national scandal, and the fact that we could do so much more, if we realised the eternal power of education.